Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Jimmy Chen, a Jimmy Chen. My channel is Food for HNM. We are starting a new book, Judges. Judges is the book after the book of Joshua or Yehoshua. So here we go. Judges 1. After the death of Joshua, Yehoshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, "Who will be the first to go up and fight for us against the Canaanites?" So you have to remember that Joshua was the leader of the Israelites. He was a great general. The Lord answered, "Judah is to go. I have given the land into their hands." Then the men of Judah said to the Simeonites, their brothers, "Come up with us into the territory allotted to us to fight against the Canaanites. We in turn will go with you into yours." So the Simeonites went with them. When Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. It was there that they found Adoni-Bezek and fought against him, putting to rout the Canaanites and Perizzites. Adoni-Bezek fled, but they chased him and caught him and cut off his thumbs and big toes. So they cut off his fingers and toes, but just his thumbs. And so they cut off 4, 2 thumbs and 2 toes. Then Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. So Adoni-Bezek did that to 70 other kings. And now, someone did it to him. The Israelites did it to him. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. The men of Judah attacked Jerusalem also and took it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, remember, they call it the Jebusite city, Jerusalem. So a long time ago, Jerusalem was like a very bad city, full of these guys that the Lord, Jesus, the Lord, our God, God, the Creator, He wanted the people who lived in Jerusalem all wiped out. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, the men of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev, and the western foothills. They advanced against the Canaanites living in Hebron, formerly called Kiriath Arba, and defeated Shishai, Ahiman, and Ptolemy. From there, they advanced against the people living in Debir, Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer, and Caleb. So Caleb is a leader. Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer. Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. So Caleb gave his daughter Aksah to him in marriage. One day, when she came to Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, What can I do for you? She replied, Do me a special favor. Since you have given me land in the Negev, give me also springs of water. Then Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. The descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenite, went up from the city of palms with the men of Judah to live among the people of the desert of Judah in the Negev near Arad. Then the men of Judah went with the Simeonites, their brothers, and attacked the Canaanites living in Zephath, and they totally destroyed the city. Therefore it was called Haormah. The men of Judah also took Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, each city with its territory. The Lord was with the men of Judah. They took possession of the hill country, but they were unable to drive the people from the plains because they had iron chariots. So if you watch my earlier videos, there are a couple areas where they had iron chariots, and Joshua is dead now, but Joshua said, I think you will be able to defeat them. Because, Joshua is smart, as a military tactician, or, he's good at assessing the enemy. But they told Joshua, before he died, he told the Israelites that these guys, with iron chariots, you will be able to beat them. As Moses had promised, Hebron was given to Caleb, who drove from it the 3 sons of Anak. The Benjamites, however, failed to dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the Benjamites. Now the house of Joseph attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with them when they sent men to spy out Bethel, formerly called Luz or Luz. The spies saw a man coming out of the city, and they said to him, Show us how to get into the city, and we will see that you were treated well. So he showed them, and they put the city to the sword, but spared the man and his whole family. He then went to the land of the Hittites, where he built a city and called it Luz or Luz, which is its name to this day. But Manasseh did not drive out the people of Bethshan or Ta'anak or Dor or Ibeam or Megiddo and their surrounding settlements. For the Canaanites were determined to live in that land. When Israel became strong, they pressed the Canaanites into forced labor, but never drove them out completely. Nor did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, but the Canaanites continued to live there among them. Neither did Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahalol, who remained among them, but they did subject them to forced labor. Nor did Asher drive out those living in Akko or Sidon, or Alab, or Akzib, or Helba, or Afek, or Rehob. And because of this, the people of Asher lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land. Neither did Naphtali drive out those living in Beth Shemesh or Beth Anath, but the Naphtalites I don't know if they wrote that correctly. Naphtali, are there two eyes? Oh, there might be two eyes. Naphtaliites. But the Naphtaliites too lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, and those living in Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath became forced laborers for them. The Amorites confined the Danites to the hill country, not allowing them to come down into the plain. And the Amorites were determined also to hold out in Mount Heres, Aijalon, and Sha'albim. But when the power of the house of Joseph increased, they too were pressed into forced labor. The boundary of the Amorites was from Scorpion Pass to Selah and beyond. Let's move on forward. Go to Judges 2. Judges 2. The angel, this is a holy angel warrior, a Kadosh. Remember, they are Kadosh Malakim, they're powerful. The holy angel warrior, the angel of the Lord. His name is the angel of the Lord. It's like a title. Remember, the angel of the Lord, there are two. The angel of the Lord and the angel of God. Maybe one was a pillar of cloud earlier. You have to watch an earlier video. And one was a pillar of fire. They're like very scary. One looked like a tornado, and one looked like a tornado of fire. So the angel of the Lord, he is a holy angel warrior, went up from Gilgal. So remember, Gilgal is where they camped. The Israelites camped as soon as they crossed the river Jordan. So he went from Gilgal to Bokim and said, he's saying things. I brought you up out of Egypt. Remember? When the Israelites left Egypt, there were these pillars that went with the entire group. So he's talking to these guys, the Israelites. And some of them, it's been a long time. Like, you brought me? But I guess God and his Kadosh Malakim, they talk a certain way. I mentioned that this was a long time ago, so people spoke differently. But the Kadosh Malakim said to the Israelites, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land. So it's, Kadosh Malakim are very hard to understand. Like, they're very close to God. So they're giving you a message from God, but they're not God. It sounds like they're saying it, and at the same time, God, it's a message from God. God is saying it. They're kind of like, God sent me to tell you, and listen to what I'm saying. This is what God is saying. God is saying, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land that I swore to give to your forefathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? You have to watch Gods and Kings, starring Christian Bale. It's a movie. There's this young Kadosh Malakim, and in one scene he goes, I am. And a lot of people are like, oh, the holy angel can't say I am. Only God could go, I am. You don't see him in somewhere. From somewhere, and you hear it everywhere. You hear this booming, I am. Only God could say I am, because he's God. He's the great I am. But Kadosh Malakim, they say things like that. I am. They're very like. They're so close to God, they can just say the same thing that he says. It's very hard to explain. But the best way to explain it is they sort of have a note, from God. God is saying I am, and they're like, but they don't say I have a note. They have a note that, like, for example, they have a note that says I am. This is what God is saying to you, I am. But they don't read the note like this. They look at you, I am. No, they know they're not God, but very powerful, very close to him. They're like holy. God is thrice holy. They are holy. I'm not holy. I could try my entire life. I will never achieve holiness. I could be a very godly person, but they are holy. And maybe when I get to heaven, I'll be kind of holy. But they're like very, very, very holy. And then the Kadosh Malakim, the angel of the Lord, continues, he's saying, now therefore I tell you that I will not drive them out before you. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called that place Bokim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. This is Yehoshua, a great general, leader of the Israelites. He led them to conquer the land that God promised them. It was great. Then Joshua, Yehoshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Heres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. After that, whole generation had been gathered to their fathers. So Joshua is, remember, we have something like generations. There was, I know some things. There was a generation called the baby boomers, and then there was something called the Gen Xers. And after the Gen Xers, for the most part, then have come the millennials. Yeah. Gen Xers were, baby boomers are from a long time ago, from maybe like the 60s or the 80s, I don't know. But the Gen Xers, they were born in like the late 60s to the 70s. Born, not because the generation, when I said 60s to 80s, the boomers, that's when they're like almost out of college, they're ready to have kids. But the Gen Xers, they were born in, I think, the late 60s or in the 70s. So right now they're older than 40. And so there is such a thing as generations, So Joshua, Yehoshua, is the last person, it's saying here in verse 10, of a certain generation. So now another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. So after Joshua, people started to forget, God, the Creator, the Lord. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals or the Baals. They forsook the Lord. That means they abandoned him, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them. They provoked the Lord to anger because they forsook him and served Baal or Baal and the Ashtoreths. In his anger against Israel, the Lord handed them over to raiders, not the football team in Las Vegas, not the Las Vegas Raiders, handed them over to people who invaded Israel. This is ancient Israel. This is a long time ago, long time ago, in the land where Israel is today. Today, that is modern day Israel, a country that began in 1949 or 1948. So there are these invaders who invaded Israel, ancient Israel, and who plundered them. He sold them to their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges. They're called judges. Okay, don't think of a lame guy. You think he's lame. Judges are actually cool people. They're smart. They're tough. They become judges because they are the smartest lawyers, and they're the smartest, they understand the law, not only do they understand it, sometimes they write new ones, sort of, or, like when they make a decision, it gets recorded, something like Roe versus Wade, judges, they make rulings, and it goes down in history. So judges are smart people, but these judges are a different kind of judge. They're more like superheroes, man, who saved them. The Lord raised up judges, like Superman, who saved them out of the hands of these raiders. So people started to always invade Israel. Yet they would not listen to their judges. So Israel would not listen to their super heroes, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshiped them. Remember, Israel, you have to remember, there was a guy named Moses, and he gave them a law, and he asked them, will you, have God, the Creator, the Lord, like as your only God, and will you remain loyal to Him? And Israel said yes, they will do that. But see, right now they're not doing that. They're prostituting themselves to other gods and worshipped them. Unlike their fathers, they quickly turned from the way in which their fathers had walked, the way of obedience to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge, like a superhero, man, for them, obviously I'm making fun of for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord had compassion on them as they groaned under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their fathers, following other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore, the Lord, that's Jesus. Spoiler alert. He is God, the Creator, was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant that I laid down for their forefathers, and them, and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Yehoshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel and see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their forefathers did. The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. So you wonder why they could not dislodge everyone. If you watched the earlier videos, so the Lord is keen. It says right here in verse 22, he thought of it beforehand to use them to test Israel, to see if they will keep my way. So we are moving on to Judges 3. These are the nations the Lord left to test all those Israelites who had not experienced any of the wars in Canaan. He did this only to teach warfare to the descendants of the Israelites who had not had previous battle experience. So not only remember I just mentioned when Yehoshua, he was a general. He led all the Israelites into this land. They had to conquer the land, and then they divided the land up. And God, the Lord, told them to wipe all those people out. And they couldn't, Some of them were left. They could not, and they want to expel them, at least maybe chase them out of there. Couldn't wipe them out, couldn't expel them. And then we read that a lot of them became forced laborers. They had them work for them. There are two reasons for that. God knew that there would be a new generation who would, they didn't see all those amazing things that the Lord did. So they would start to forget about him. It's like Wang Li Homes, Wang means in Chinese is forget. Li in Taiwanese, which is like a Chinese dialect, is you. Forget you. Forget you, Holmes. Wang Li Homes. They just start to forget God because they're younger, they're a new generation. So God said, I will, he's very sneaky, in a good way. They couldn't get rid of those people because God said, I will use them. Kim does Heavenly Father. I will use them to test them, to see if they will serve me only, It's like a temptation, And if they get tempted, failed it. You're supposed to keep the covenant of your forefathers and worship God only, the Lord. And then the second reason is, there are these new generations, maybe they're like a little softer, So he would maybe force them to fight, to give them battle experience. Now, if they're invading you, then everyone has to fight them. The 5 rulers, this is verse 3. Verse 3. The 5 rulers of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, and the Hivites, living in the Lebanon mountains, from Mount Baal Hermon to Lebo Hamath. They were left to test the Israelites to see whether they would obey the Lord's commands, which he had given their forefathers through Moses. The Israelites lived among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They took their daughters in marriage and gave their own daughters to their sons and served their gods. Now, why would they want to do that? It's kind of lame, Let's say I marry someone. It's kind of awful to say, but, I'm the man, I serve the Lord, the God of creation, who created everything. He is the Most High. I'm a man, You gotta get rid of your religion and take out my religion, because I'm the man, Or you gotta be nice and just talk to your wife and say, sweetheart, this is the higher God, and your God is like the lower God, All right, isn't it good you met me? Now you could get on the good religion, like the better religion. He's the better God. He's the only God. And what I mean is, sometimes, well, religion, there's a funny saying, the religion is the opiate of the masses. Have you ever heard that saying? It's like some kind of drug for a lot of people, Um, it's like some good stuff. So if you're gonna smoke some religion, you want to smoke the better stuff, the religion of the Most High God. He's higher. You want to get higher on the religion. So serve the highest, the highest, so you can get the high. No, I'm just kidding. It might work for some kids, if a parent is watching this video. But that makes sense, if you want to compare things, my God is stronger than your God. So, and he's the only God. He's the creator. He created your God, probably. So just come on over to the good side, so to speak, the better side, the better religion. Okay, verse 7. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God, and served the Baals or Baals and the Asherahs. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel, so that he sold them into the hands of Cushan Rishathaim, Rishathaim, king of Aram Naharaim, to whom the Israelites were subject for 8 years. But when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up for them a deliverer, someone to deliver them like Moses, to free them. Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, who saved them. Remember, this Othniel guy is Caleb's son-in-law. He married his daughter. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him. That is a good point. So that he became Israel's judge and went to war. The Lord gave Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him. So the land had peace for 40 years until Othniel. I don't know, which one sounds better? Othniel or Othniel? Othniel. I am Othniel. I'm Othniel. I'm Othniel. Or I'm Othniel. Son of Kenaz died. Once again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So remember, it was predicted, as soon as one of these super guys, these judges, died, then the Israelites started to serve other gods, forget that they were supposed to be loyal to the Lord, the real God, the one true God, the creator of everything. It did, once again, Othniel died, and they once again did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And because they did this evil, the Lord gave Eglon, king of Moab, power over Israel, getting the Ammonites and Amalekites to join him. Eglon came and attacked Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. Again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, crying out, we messed up. Lord, help us, Lord God. And then he gave them another deliverer, Ehud, a left-handed man, the son of Gera, the Benjamite. The Israelites sent him with tribute. Tribute is a lot of precious things to usually when you pay tribute, you are giving honor, right? Like you're paying tribute. There's like a sometimes to Michael Jackson, right? There could be a concert, where you play all his music, and it is like a tribute concert to Michael Jackson. You're honoring Michael Jackson. So the Israelites sent Gera with some kind of tribute, like a lot of precious things to honor, to try to say to Eglon, king of Moab, we're honoring you with this, So Gera is coming in. I mean, not Gera, Ehud, son of Gera. This is Ehud. The Israelites asked Ehud to go to Eglon. Now Ehud had made a double-edged sword, a sword with two sharp edges. So I guess sometimes swords only have one cutting side and the other side is blunt. But this sword is sharp on two sides. And it was about 1.5 feet long, not that long, which he strapped to his right thigh. He may be hiding a sword, over here, on the maybe inside of his thigh. Because if you put it on the outside, someone will be like, "Come on, man, I see the sword right there." I don't know. It may have been on the inside of his thigh, strapped to his right thigh under his clothing. So I wonder why it's 1.5 feet. Let's see. So this is Ehud. He presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab, who was a very fat man. It's a fatso, big fatso. After Ehud had presented the tribute, he sent on their way the men who had carried it. So it was a lot of stuff. Very gold, silver, jewels, maybe clothes, fancy clothes. We make this in Israel. See how beautiful. So Ehud said, "Get out of here, guys." Verse 19. At the idols near Gilgal, he himself turned back and said, "I have a secret message for you, O king." The king said, "Quiet." And all his attendants left him. Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his summer palace and said, "I have a message from God, the Creator, the real God." It has a God with a big G, for you. As the king rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, remember he's left-handed, drew the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into the king's belly, stuck him right in the stomach. Even the handle sank in after the blade, which came out his back. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. So he's very fat. Then Ehud went out to the porch. He shut the doors of the upper room behind him and locked them. After he had gone, the servants came and found the doors of the upper room locked. They said, "He must be relieving himself in the inner room of the house." They waited to the point of embarrassment. So relieving is, using the restroom. But when he did not open the doors of the room, they took a key and unlocked them. There they saw their Lord fallen to the floor, dead. So, he's an assassin. Ehud, the leader of the Israelites, he's a judge. So, okay, remember, they don't have any kings yet. Israel does not. Joshua was an acting king and a great military general and the leader of all the people, like a king. So Ehud is something like a king. He's not a king, but he's called a judge. He is the leader, but he's an assassin. He's an assassin. While they waited, Ehud got away. He escaped. He passed by the idols and escaped to Seirah. When he arrived there, he blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went down with him from the hills, with him leading them. "Follow me," he ordered, "for the Lord has given Moab, your enemy, into your hands." So they followed him down, and taking possession of the fords of the Jordan that led to Moab, they allowed no one to cross over. At that time, they struck down about 10,000 Moabites, all vigorous and strong. Not a man escaped. So after Ehud assassinated I want to say Egghead, but his name is Eglon, fat Eglon. They immediately fought these guys, Moab, and they killed 10,000 people. That day, Moab was made subject to Israel, and the land had peace for 80 years. After Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down, with a sword. He didn't just bop him on the head, who struck him down, killed him, struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel. I guess in this case, he didn't kill people with a sword. He killed he must be a legendary judge. He killed 600 people with an ox goad. I think an ox goad is a yoke. A horse can pull a buggy, right? You've seen these buggies, they're like being pulled by horses. The way you attach a horse to that buggy, someone's like sitting in, it's sort of like a car, 4 wheels. Chariots actually had 2 wheels, maybe 3. You attach that horse with something like a harness, right? Remember, oxen, they used them for farming. So there's something called a plow. I guess it's like a buggy. So the ox, instead of a harness, would have a yoke or a goad. I guess it's an ox goad. And then that's how you attach the ox. to the plow. And then you have heard of plowing a field so you can have plant seeds so you can grow crops. So this judge, he killed people with something strange, you know. It's like a horse's harness. And that is it. You know, that is Judges 3. So remember, Judges is about, they're not kings, they lead Israel. So they're something like the president of the United States. But they're called judges, and I think they're they're like superheroes. They're like superheroes. One's an assassin, you know, and this fellow Shamgar. He kills people with something like a horse's harness with an ox goad. Thank you for listening. Remember, keep God first. He'll take you places.